lot of people have been asking for tours. I've given some architects and some professionals tours. Just everyone knows about it. The neighbor down the street is one of my other designers, and her family refer to it as Mysa. How's Mysa doing today?
Like a person.
Like a person.
It's got its own life force.
Yeah, so that's the story of Mysa Hus, and it's still evolving. Welcome to the Curious Builder Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today is a special day. Every day is a special day, but today is a very special day. It's the day before Thanksgiving, and I wanted to bring in my good friend Drew Beson Art to be my compadre in talking about Mysa Hus. So I have been talking a lot about Mysa Hus. If you follow our social channels for Mark Williams Custom Homes, I allude to it a lot. We have our own dedicated channel, but I want to spend at least an hour just talking about from the beginning idea, the reason why, what we've learned, partners that we brought on, and where Mysa Hus is at today. I brought on Melissa Oland, one of our designers, or the designer. Carl Adalbert, his episode just aired, episode 140, who is our architectural designer. And so I thought maybe at this point it's probably time for me to come on and share my point of view on it. And so Drew was kind enough to give me someone to talk to. I'll be carrying probably the majority of the load, but Drew will ask a lot of questions. So Drew, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we just had a yummy ramen. It just snowed, so I feel like this is very time. We toured Mysa Hus together. What was your, you've heard a lot about it. What was your first impressions?
Well, first impression of the ramen first. First things first. When the weather dips like it did today, and we go from being pretty mild and doing all the last of the season wrap up stuff yesterday to all of a sudden waking up to snow and it being cold and windy and you got to scrape a car. You know, when you're able to have lunch like we did today, which makes my cheeks nice and rosy, a hot ramen was fantastic and kind of warms you on the inside. And doing our walkthrough just right before that was interesting because I hadn't seen the space. I've been seeing little tidbits on social and, hearing about kind of what's happening and kind of the idea of some of this. And then I was listening to and reading and learning more about it. But then to see it in person, I think is huge. I'm a tactile visual person. And I thought the space was great. A lot of times when we probably are going to talk about scale and why that stuff is important, talk about the setting and why that's important, but feeling comfortable or cozy, which is kind of the principle that this is built on. I think it's a perfect time of year to be talking about this, and to see it for the first time was great. And I'm looking forward to knowing more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to set the stage for the audience, you can, again, go to our mysahus.com to follow the actual build on the website and to see what we're going to talk about today, which is the philosophy that we've built around Mysa Hus. And then obviously our Instagram handle, Mysa Hus, is probably the most up-to-date stories. Today we walked in and we were actually drying out all the flooring. It's actually from a company called Arbany, and we get it locally in Minnesota from a company called Oxbow. It's installed by a company called Alpine. And but anyway, it comes from Belgium. Oh. And so anyway, so it's kind of cool from Europe. And the reason I picked it is it has a lot of linseed oil, or that's how they treat it. And linseed oil is just a lot more sustainable than maybe some of our polyurethanes and some of our water-based finishes here that I've used mostly in my homes. And we'll kind of go back to the beginning, but that's where the house is at right now. We're actually letting it dry for another week. And so they'll start installing the floor the Monday after Thanksgiving.
So those floors, the boards that were down, they've been sealed in the linseed oil?
Yes.
Because everything smelled neutral or good in the house. I think the alternative that you mentioned, like polyurethane or whatever, that stinks to high heaven and it stays stinky for days. Yeah,
I mean, the old way we used to do it with oils, it did. The water-based finishes that we most commonly use now, just water-based, it doesn't have that smell. I can't remember the last time I even did oil. It's been a long time. But this was pre-finished in their factory. And then we'll put one coat of linseed oil on at the end. But it's a little bit like soapstone. I think you put on for care, like if it loses it has a really nice organic matte finish to it. And I think towards the, like every couple of years, you would just either have Alpine or do it yourself. Just put on some linseed oil, rub it in, almost like you're like treating the wood, almost like shoe leather, like a nice pair of, leather shoes. You'd want to buff them and oil them so that that linseed oil kind of soaks and saturates the wood. Well, let's start at the beginning. this property is in Cottagewood, Minnesota, about 5 minutes from our office. And the neighbor, I was doing a remodel about 2 years ago, maybe. And they called me and said, hey, we saw your sign on your remodel, and we had a death in the family, and we'd like to sell our home. And the home was way overgrown, really bad shape. It had been added on, kind of a Frankenstein house, had been added on like 8 or 9 times over probably 50, 60 years. But it was kind of just hidden. It was so overgrown, you couldn't even see the house, honestly. So long story short, I called a good friend of mine, a past client and a mentor, and I said, I think we should buy this together, and then we'll get a build job off of it. So we did. We sold it like maybe 4 days after we tore it down to somebody in the neighborhood, actually. Their mom was going to buy. So we designed a house for them. It didn't work out. They ended up moving to Charleston or Raleigh or somewhere in South Carolinas. And so we got the lot back. And then we sold it again 4 days later. We put some balloons on the mailbox, and we were just out there one day. Carl Adalbert, who was the architectural designer on the first home, was out there with me, and a couple drove by, and they said, we love this lot. We've been looking. So we quickly designed a house for them very fast, faster than we ever normally would design, because they were still kind of in that interim phase. They ended up deciding the lot wasn't big enough for them and decided not to build. So that we got, but keep in mind this probably took a year. So the first one we went all the way through almost permit set. Like we went a long way, 6-7 months. And then the second one, that was about 3-4 weeks. Long story short, we spun a year. What looked like a slam dunk, we sold it right away. Ended up being a year and a half later, we're stuck with this lot. We can't sell it. And there was temptation to maybe sell it to another builder. And I was like, man, Carl has drawn 2 plans that he didn't get, really paid for. I've spent a year of my life designing on this beautiful lot, and I wasn't really upset. At the people, life happens. I'm fine with that. It was mainly just, this is just a gem. I really got to know it, so I, decided in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's go all the way. So I knew that I hadn't done a spec home since 2008. Well, 2008 and 9, 10 were really bad years for building as a really massive correction, right? So I've really been gung shy. I've often thought that maybe I've held back my own career. I've seen other builders that maybe have been more okay with leveraging and borrowing money, and I just always ran a cash business. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just more of an observation. And I also knew that I tend to do things too nice. So one of the biggest, I'm really good at custom home builder. Like if I'm building for you, Drew, like I will knock it out of the park, because I really get interested in what, I'm curious about you, your family, what you want. And I always say like the land dictates it, the client dictates it, the architect, the designer, all of that together makes that home really special. But I wasn't interested in just doing like a 4-bedroom house that was a couple million. Like, it was too vanilla. I've kind of said that if you build a house for everyone, you sort of build a house for nobody. That's how I feel. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's just how I feel. And so I really felt the need to come up with something special, something unique, something that I would love, because in absence of a client, I sort of am the client. Now I'm certainly not the first builder that has built a house for themselves, except my joke is I can't afford my own work. So
me neither.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I was like, well, how do I do this? Because what I wanted, do I build a 2-story? Do I build a Rambler? And actually, the first client we had, we built a Rambler, main floor living ranch style. And the second client, we built a 2-story. So we had actually built 2 completely, it would have been easy to do either one of those plans. We'd already developed it, but it was their home. So it wasn't the home that I wanted to create.
So you could have fulfilled both of the dry runs and seen either one of those to fruition, but instead you didn't fall back on one of those. You probably learned as much as you could from both of those tests. And then you go, it's A plus B, and it can be X, Y, or Z. It could go any direction from there. So what did you learn from the first 2 that made it into the final cut, and what is totally different?
No, that's a great question. One of the things that happened in the first home is she wanted she was a swimmer. So she wanted to wake up in the morning, exit her bedroom, and go swimming in the pool. So we toured it today. The detached wellness studio is exactly where her owner suite was, and that's where the pool. So the location of that, well, we built a 2-story, so we built it for a traditional family. I mean, it could be anybody, but the bedrooms are all upstairs to minimize my square footage on the main level. But that detached wellness center, if you attach it, could easily have been an owner suite. So that, I would say, in concept or lot placement sort of was similar. That home was really contemporary, where Mysa Hus is not contemporary. The second one, really nothing other than it's a 2-story. So nothing specific. That was more Cape Cod, and that really doesn't play into Mysa Hus. We did play around a lot with orientations. So, but no, I would say nothing really. I shouldn't say that. The golf simulator. We did add the golf simulator. I did that for other reasons. This neighborhood has a lot of ex-hockey players in it, and it seems like a lot of hockey players get into, because of their eye-hand coordination, seem to get into golf. And so the idea was, I'm guessing that whoever buys this home will likely either be an extension of somebody in my network, a past client and someone they know, or likely the neighborhood itself, either someone within the neighborhood or someone who knows someone in the neighborhood because they come on holidays or whatever, because this community is very special. I think there's only 264 home sites in Cottagewood.
And just having driven through today, I think I'd maybe been through the neighborhood. It's private. Once or twice I was at a big fundraiser, probably in that 2008 range that year. I remember it being special and feeling much more like a township or like a small community rather than a city. And you explaining to me just about kind of how Cottagewood works, or that it falls within the larger city of Deep Haven, but that it's unique because of that, and really a unique community as a result, and with a general store and some other things that are very unique to the article. Yeah.
The general store it's just this old fashioned, if picture you went to a resort town, and like you're at a hotel and you walk down the street, like cobblestone street, and there's a little general store that you can get ice cream or toffee or kind of old world things that don't really exist here. You see it on the East Coast, like Kenny Bunkport, Maine, or something like that comes to mind. And that's in this little town. It's just the most charming thing ever. And you're like, well, as soon as you do it once, you're like, I want this for and I have young kids. So I have 3 young kids. I'm thinking like May, Simon, and Tate riding their bike down the streets like a block away, and it sounds like you put your name on a till. So you just cash out at the end of the season. So you put in, let's say, $1,000 or whatever, and the kids can, it allows for this really cool community. And we're actually one of the sponsors. I wanted to be very ingrained in the community. So we're one of the main sponsors each year. And, we support, like we have the Santa sleigh ride coming up. They do all kinds of other, pet your puppy, llama stuff. I mean, they've got all kinds of stuff because there's a lot of kids. When I first went to the home, there was I think the neighbor had 5 kids and 2 twins. And I was like, oh, my kids. I felt this really strong desire that I wanted to be there. And I've always kind of used myself as a litmus test of like, if I like it, somebody else will. So back to the Mysa Hus. So I didn't want to come with just a, blank piece of paper, vanilla. I wanted something special. Oddly enough, I knew the team before I knew the project. I knew Carl. Carl's my neighbor down in Minneapolis. He's one of the reasons why I got into ultra running. So, I trained for 50 milers, 100 miler. He used to do a lot of Ironmans. That'll come up later in the story because we didn't figure out the wellness thing till about 4 or 5 months into design. That actually, now it's like one of the primer things of Mysa Hus, but this is very much a discovery of like, not who I am, but it's a big part. I'm all over this house myself personally, but I've discovered a lot about what I'm really interested in after a 21-year building career, and then my personal life, my family life, all these things have sort of melded into this brand, Mysa Hus. So I had just gone through rebranding with Mark Williams Custom Homes. I had the Curious Builder podcast for 3 years, or at this point 2 years. And so I was really keen on branding. I wanted a story that was sticky. I wanted the brand. I just love stories. You tell me just an amazing story, like I will listen. It's interesting. I wanted the sellability and the brand of this home to be so sticky that it would sell the home before anyone even saw it. Like, how could I create a story? And I don't think people think about homes this way, especially not a spec home. You think about a personal home, maybe like do you remember the address of the home you grew up in? What's the address?
19690. Very memorable, actually, because my uncle made the joke when my dad bought the house. He said, "Look, Dave, like 1969, the year you graduated from high school, and 0, what you were." 19690.
That's pretty funny, actually.
That's good.
This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI-powered bill pay, automated draws, one-click payments, and built-in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back-end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. I've asked that question before because as children, now we're adults, we're both 45.
44.
Oh, you're
Slow
44.
down, Mark.
Whoa, boy. Well, man, you look like you're 34, so come on now.
Thank you.
It must be that ramen.
Yeah, it's a youthful.
But the point being is like we have very strong memories and stories with the home that we grew up in.
For sure.
I had coffee with my dad the other day and he asked me what home we lived in was the most memorable. And it was without a doubt the address I just mentioned. We moved a lot. I mean, I think they're on home number 19. I remember probably 5 or 6 homes, but that home we lived for 10 years. And all my childhood memories are that house. Anyway, going back to story, how could I create that in a one-off? So I worked with Molly Windmiller with Lab Minneapolis. She's helped me with some brand work for Curious Builder. And I sat down with her and I said, Carl, my neighbor, he's going to be my architectural designer. He had also designed the other 2. So I definitely wanted to reward him for his patience. I mean, having 2 clients, jump off the ship is rough for any artist. But I knew that if Carl and I left alone, it would probably be very dude bro. It'd be very, and Carl could design anything, but it probably would have been me. I would have gravitated towards something very manly, very, more Scandinavian modern. I knew also just being Scandinavian myself, I'm a, Norwegian, Swedish, German, Swiss, European mutt, right? Which is fine. But I love that culture. We'd actually done our honeymoon there as well. We went to Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and all these places. And so I just love the culture. My mom, Lindquist, very Swedish name. And, all those stereotypes are true. We like all those foods. And anyway, so I'm like, that's a big part of me. And so I approached, picking the team. So Melissa Olent from Oho Interiors is just a lovely human being. I just adore her. She's warm, she's inviting, very traditional. And I knew that most of my clients are women who pick the home, right? The husband, I had a designer one time that used to say, happy wife, happy life. And so I was thinking about that. Like if Carl and I are alone, like we need this designer, this tripod, to be really stable in design. And I wanted everyone to have some ownership of this. And so I infamously told Melissa she has a 5-to-1 veto power over me because I know I have a strong personality.
She's got voting shares.
She does. And so I wanted her, if I ever got down to it where I would pick something against the grain or against what Mysa Hus, we didn't know what it was called at that point. I gave her kind of the authority to be like, no. She'd wave her fingers like, don't make me use my voting power. She's actually never had to do that. I kind of just joke with her. So anyway, I went to Molly Windmiller. And I said, I want it to be Scandinavian. I like Scandinavian design, not modern. So I kind of just painted this picture. And she's great at getting stuff out of me. So we talked about heritage. We talked about things that I like. I gave her a bunch of images and homes that I like. I used, Oho's brand, just like her as a person. Like Melissa Olent actually took my daughter's baby photos before she was a designer. She actually took our daughter's baby photos. So like you can't even make this up.
Legacy together.
There's this huge backstory. I needed people I could trust, people that believed in me personally, but also the brand, and people that I just really was comfortable with. And I just adore both Carl and Melissa anyway. So it's like I'm assembling this dream love team. And I said, I want something. So she said, well, describe what you want this house to be. And as you know me, as my personal friend, this is how I talk. And I was just like, I just started talking out loud about, I said, it's like today. I want a cold, blustery, cold winter day. I want to sit on a chair looking at snow falling with a novel in my lap and a cup of hot cocoa with marshmallows in my right with a warm, fuzzy blanket. I want to feel cozy. Like can a house elicit this kind of emotion? That's what I want to feel. And she was like, that's exactly what we're going to do. So we went through a bunch of word searching and Mysa means cozy in Swedish. That's how we came up with it. Was my description of what I wanted the home to feel like, and the story that grabs was all based on that, what I just said. This warm, fuzzy feeling in a sunroom with a blanket. And so as soon as we had a few other names, and Heige had been a very popular name for like the last 4 or 5 years, and I just don't like the word Heige, and it didn't come off my tongue the way I liked it. And Mysa, I was like, ooh, Mysa. I like Mysa a lot. It's quick to say. It invites curiosity. I love it when people ask me like, Mysa. I love it when people mispronounce it because that's when you know it's like they want to say it. And I was like, well, it's Mysa Hus and it's cozy. This home is going to be cozy. So anyway, they created all the brand assets for us. So now we have a brand. So Mysa Hus is the brand, is the story. We haven't started designing the house yet, by the way. This is just all coming out. So then I sat down with Carl and we needed, Carl's amazing, but he's like, it's a blank piece of paper. Where do we go? So
what are the principles?
In when we're still discovering this, but one of the things that was really important, the reason I spent so much time, I never would have thought about this other than I would have been bored to come to market. Just like I'm really bad at just matching what other people do or just going into the market and saying like, hey, what's selling? Most people do it that way. Who knows? Maybe that's a better way to do it. It's not interesting to me. It's not my skill set. It doesn't get me excited. It doesn't make me want to get out of bed. I never could have done what I did unless the sparks of curiosity were just flying off of me. And so I couldn't do it if I wasn't excited. So this other way excites me. We'll find out at the end whether it was a good idea or not.
Yeah.
And so we have to, he's like, well, is it a 2-story or is it a 1-story? It's like, man, right out of the gate, what do we do now? I wanted a philosophy that when we got to decision making, the philosophy dictated what the decisions were. Because I didn't want to go through this build and I don't want to have every single decision be my decision. I wanted the philosophy, like independently,
to make the decision.
Yeah. I wanted the philosophy to be our client. I wanted it to be a filter so that by the time it got to me, it was like, oh, well, that's obviously what it is. It's that. And so the only thing I really had to pick was this one decision, which is it still, because something that's cozy could be 1-story, 2-story. I mean, there's still some variation there. So I said, well, I'm going to use my life and my family as the archetype. So, pretty simple. People have done that before. So I have 3 kids and my wife, Melissa. So we're like, tell you what, we're going to make it a 2-story because that's what I would want. It also helped, there's hardcover percentages. So I knew I wanted a pool because it's a big, long backyard. The first design we had done with the other client had a pool too. So we knew that if we got too big on the main level, we wouldn't be able to do pools. So that was another reason. So we did the 2-story. We started laying out things that were important. Like I love a sunroom. So in my personal home, the windows that look at Carl's house. Oh, by the way, funny part of the story, Melissa Olen's primary designer, Kate Sikorsky, is Carl's neighbor. So you've got Mark the builder, Carl the neighbor, and Carl's neighbor is Kate Sikorsky. So the 3 of us are literally 3 homes in a row in South Minneapolis. You can't make this stuff up.
No.
And I'm a very serendipitous person. I'm like, that's cool. That's all part of the story. We did this video, I don't know if you saw it on Instagram, where we all came out and raised our coffee and waved it. Someone asked if we rented homes to do that. I'm like, no, but
that wasn't in the budget.
That wasn't in the budget.
It was just easier to live
but I appreciate
right
that you think that I'm that method of an actor,
right?
that's what I would do.
That kind of convincement, yeah.
Right. So anyway, so I guess the next part was, I wanted things that meant a lot to me. So we started going through, because Carl's a very good question asker. He's asking me questions. So tell me more about Mysa Hus. So I'm like, well, the sunroom I've experienced in 21 years that my clients, the thing that they love the most is a small, well-lit room in the house that's cozy. So it fit all of the things that Mysa Hus is. The nice part about our lot is it's straight south facing off the back and straight north on the front. It's a long rectangle. Well, the pool, the sunroom, everything is just these amazing windows coming in. I've been a supporter of Pella for 21 years, and they've been a big reason for my success as well. So I knew that I wanted to do windows, as many windows as possible. And so the sunroom was probably room number 1. Have to have a sunroom. I wanted the rooms to feel cozy. So going back to the philosophy, one of the philosophies for me is, I grew up without a TV. And one of the huge benefits of that is we spent a lot of time, doing games, doing puzzles, going outside, just spending time as a family, reading books, and while I understand that people need to have a TV potentially in their house, my first house I ever built, funny story, I didn't put a place for a TV, and I almost couldn't sell it because no one knew where a TV could go. This is way before Wi-Fi TVs existed, and I never made that mistake again. So I'm like, well, we will have a TV in the basement. If someone wants TV somewhere else, whoever buys it can put a TV wherever they want. But that wasn't the spirit of it. I deliberately made the rooms, like the bedrooms, smaller not uber, they're nice sized, but smaller. So I've heard stories, my kids are younger, but I've heard stories like when kids get in their teenage years, like I don't want them just disappearing into the rooms. I want common spaces so the kids come spend time with us as a family. I wanted this home to be a refuge. One of the early ideas that I had that made its way all through the home was I love going to like a cabin. In the mountains or up north in Minnesota. There's no cell phone service. There's no one around. It's quiet. It's relaxed. You can literally feel your body just like relax.
Heart rate goes down for sure.
It's very cathartic. It's just like, oh, it feels good. I was fascinated with this idea is like, could I make a home in an urban environment feel like a cabin? That was very much part of this philosophy spirit of what I didn't know it at the time, but I was seeking like that to me is wellness. That's mental wellness.
Yeah. A retreat, right?
A retreat. Yeah. A refuge, getting away from your phone. So early on I had this idea. Do you know what a Faraday cage is?
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, a Faraday cage is like a electric cage around an object that if you electrify it, signals can't come in. They use it to protect, like NSA, CIA. I'm sure they have sort of Faraday cages, but in old homes, oddly enough, my home from 1919 has lath and plaster everywhere. Although it's not electrified, the metal in my walls, you basically can't call me at home, which is great, except when I'm trying to call someone, it stinks. Where I was going with this is I had reached out to Admit One, Kristen Reitz, who oddly enough you play kickball with.
I do.
She's great.
She is great.
And so I asked Kristen, I said, I have this idea. I don't want, like when my kids get older, when they, like at dinner time, could I click a button, not just turn off Wi-Fi because our cell phones will just jump to the cellular network or just to the neighbor's Wi-Fi. I want to shut off all services in the house so that it's like going to a cabin. And she said, that's a fascinating idea. Look into it. And so she spent a couple of weeks looking into it and couldn't find anything. And in my mind, I'm like, on my way to create Mysa Hus, I just came up with a generational idea that I could make millions of dollars off of. Because I was already thinking of how to sell this. I'm like, I could license this, copyright it. How many parents in America would pay for this technology to like have dinner with their kids? Long story short, one of Kristen's security experts called out of the blue, called her and said, because she had told him this parameter, and she goes, he's like, do you mind if I ask who this person is? Like, you're raising some very concerning things to me. And she's like, Kristen, like, well, what do you mean? Like, what? No, Mark is great. Like, he's like, no, these are like illegal things. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, it's a felony to do what Mark is trying to do. Here I am trying to do this amazing thing. Turns out it's a felony. So it would operate on the same technology as like a radio jammer, a police jammer. So now no cell phone service, no emergency signals, carbon monoxide, security, emergency alerts, nothing can get out of the house. So if something tragic happened, emergency services couldn't be notified. Evidently that's illegal. But he was joking with Kristen, like, yeah, this is like what the mafia would want, like Hannibal Lecter, like people who want to torture people. I'm like, this is so far away what I wanted it to be.
You're just trying to have quiet dinner.
I just want a quiet dinner.
You want to just tune out for a little bit.
So does Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
So anyway.
Was it fava beans and a bottle of Chianti? Oh no.
So evidently, apologies to the audience. So evidently that was off the table.
Okay.
So I said, I was laughing my head off. I'm like, oh, funny.
Is there a light version that isn't a felony?
Well, this is what I'm going to do. I am working with a metal company to make like a metal platter that says Mysa Hus, like the, like the graphic on it. Yeah. And then you'll just put all your phones on this metal thing and I'll just put a lid over the top of the metal. It'll be like 3/4 inch steel. Nothing's getting through that. So much cheaper, by the way, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, we're still on this journey of trying to figure out what it is. We haven't broke ground. We're not done with design. Yeah. This is probably for the audience right now. We're recording this the day before Thanksgiving of 2025. So this was about a year ago. This was probably October, November of 2024, somewhere in there. I don't have an exact timestamp on that. And
when you were digging, was there snow?
No, we weren't digging at this point. We're still designing. We didn't break ground till June of 25.
Got it.
Yeah. So this is still. This is a year ago from the podcast, but it was still
discovery
8
and
months.
ideation phase.
Yep, we're designing the house. And so the other things that were important, and I give Carl a lot of credit for this idea. When we were designing the sunroom was me, the main floor, the living arrangements. One thing that was really important was I'm not a private person, so I didn't want a lot of blinds or shades. So the front quarter of the house is actually the staircase bisects the house. So all the windows in the front of the house could stay windows because most women don't want to be seen in the kitchen if someone comes to the front door, FedEx, UPS, neighbors, whatever, if they don't want to. But I still wanted all the natural light to flow freely through the house. So Carl cleverly came up with the staircase left to right versus, in a different orientation. That's why it's done that way. It came from a very direct request from me. That's what's great about our architect partners and design partners is we give them the ideas. I would never have thought how to put that together, but it's all sort of a manifestation out of these thoughts and ideas and philosophies, and then they sort of interpret it in their own way. And that's how that came to be.
So it's a unique solve for that need.
Yeah.
Cool.
For sure. I mean, very deliberate. It didn't just randomly happen.
Yeah.
We played around with maybe moving the stair, but it always was in conflict with my goal for it to be open, but yet also be private for the future eventual Mrs. Homebuyer. The big thing, so obviously we have 4 bedrooms up, laundry, all that, basement. I wanted a game area. I showed you. So I love games. If this was my home, I would have ping pong, foosball, arcade, probably a hockey bubble, a dart room, a place to set up the puzzles. Like I just love tactile games to play with my kids because that's the age that we're in. I just love it in general. So we deliberately made an area in the basement that could have all that stuff. But we didn't forget there's a big place for a TV or a screen or whatever. And then there's a walk-up bar. And then we did the golf simulator. So we did the golf simulator, as I mentioned before. It could be it's not tall enough for basketball, but you could do hockey rooms. You could do a place for the kids, whatever they want. It's just an all-purpose rec room. You could honestly use that as an exercise room if you wanted to. And here's Carl gets a lot of credit for this because, as I mentioned, Carl and I spend so much time running and biking together outside. He and I both just love being outside. He said, most people, like I was just doing, you're telling me I want 4 bedrooms. You want a guest bedroom in the basement, all these things. And then the exercise room, which is, I exercise, as you know, every single day for multiple hours. Why is it the last thing that gets prioritized in the house? When based on time, other than your bedroom and maybe the kitchen, like what else do you spend that much time in? And why is it always an afterthought in a dark basement? The big keyword there was dark. So Carl was the one that said, and he just threw it out as and this is what's beautiful about architects, where they'll tease out different ideas, and then they may have done 7 or 8 editions and then show you like 2 or 3. And so anyway, he pulled this out and he said, what if the wellness center, or what if the exercise room was detached from the house instead of a pool house? So you have all this natural light. So we're doing these big Pella multi-slide doors. You've got your Peloton full weight rack, sauna, cold tub, kind of this whole little wellness center. And by the way, it's right adjacent to the pool. So after you work out, you've got a saltwater pool. I didn't know it at the time. You got your grill, your pergola. I'm like, well, yeah, this is like the Garden of Eden. Let's go. And so that really unlocked a huge portion of the design. And so now I brought it up for the other clients that I'm working with. It's like, depending on how much they exercise, like, what do you think about seeking natural light? So
and featuring wellness, right?
Yeah. And I didn't know it at the time. I found this out much later, but the wellness industry currently in the United States is $1.8 trillion. It's going to double in the next 9 years. So it's a priority for my health and my life and what I love, but I didn't realize what an economical advantage and just smart thing to focus on. So back to the house. So I knew I wanted natural products. So now I'm starting to think, we haven't dug anything. We haven't picked anything. This is still all iteration, right? And I haven't figured out the philosophy yet. This is right now, we're getting there and kind of going backwards and like how this all came to be. But I asked myself, what do my clients want? Like energy efficiency. Because I really wanted to, with it being a spec home, I could do some things. I've always wanted to work with Rockwell, but in the past, my clients hadn't been willing. But I had reached out to, Chris Jessen and the Rockwell team, and they're like, absolutely, we're here to support you. Let's do it. Zip Huber, I'm really fascinated with. We usually do an R6, so that's 2 inches or an inch of insulation to the outside, and R12 is 2 inches of rigid foam to the outside. So they're on board. So I got to try some new things to really push our local market, our local industry, energy performance to a different level than normally I probably would have been allowed to. A client would have asked me, well, Mark, what's the payback? Mark, what's the, and I'm not saying that those aren't good questions. I certainly asked them, but I knew I wanted to go well above that to also say that I've done it. I do it. And we were one of only I think there was only like 4 homes in Minnesota that had done an R12 at that time.
And so just the idea of exceeding expectations, if the expectation doesn't exist because there isn't a client, you're building this on spec, you're basically just have to scratch your own itch at this point, and you're thinking, what's important? What are things that I would do or would tell someone to do if I didn't have to convince anyone that it was the right thing or was a good idea to exceed whatever expectations might be out there. And certainly it's the kind of thing where somebody looks at the ROI and goes, well, can we scratch back some of that cheddar? And the answer is, of course, a person could, but because you're doing this ahead of someone asking for it, you can do it better than what would be expected or what the industry even above average is. And as a result, you go, this is a premium product. This ends up being much nicer than most people would ever get if they were building it for themselves. And it'll be more efficient as a result.
100%. This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella, every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all of their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. You hit on a really key thing. I mean, we both love good food in restaurants, but when the food is served to you, the experience, the maitre d', how they treat you, the hospitality of the space you're in, the food you eat, but you didn't see the fat being trimmed. You didn't see how it was prepped. You didn't see how it was brined for 15 weeks in a cellar in Northern Africa and then shipped over on a handmade skull to be tenderized in the Atlantic sun. Like, what? That'd be amazing. It's like, that's rotted meat by now. But the point is when you see how the sausage is made, you're less likely to say you want the end. So when someone comes through this house at the end, remind me at the end of this, I'll tell you what my plan is for marketing and stories at the end. But I get to do all this stuff because right now at face value, they're like, well, how does this benefit me? Because when most people come through the home, they see the cabinets, they see the windows, they see the jewelry of the house. But all this other stuff, to a lot of people, some people, it's sexy. But a lot of people, they're like, meh. They're not that interested in it.
It's more the skeleton or the behind the nervous system or whatever else that people go, well, if I see a finished house, I wouldn't know anything about that. In fact, there could be whatever back there, and as long as it looks pretty, they go green light.
When was the last time someone came to you and be like, Drew, you have a phenomenal rib cage?
It's been a couple weeks.
It's been a couple weeks. But I mean, we're looking at the shell. We don't, the ribs support, the rest of us, or bones or whatever. We're using this for analogy. So, back to the house, that was really important to me. And so, I'm really good friends with Nick Schiffer out in Boston. He's one of my partners on Contractor Coalition Summit, and he's about a year ahead of me on his kind of prototype house called 45 White Oak. And I didn't.
You were just out there?
I was just out in Boston a couple weeks ago, and I did a whole podcast episode about that visit. Nick's work it definitely has impacted me for sure. It wasn't the root cause of it, but it's interesting how we both got to similar places for totally different reasons. You can tune into that episode to learn more about it. But that was really interesting how we both arrived at very similar ethoses and philosophies to some degree. But we got there so differently.
I think it's called parallel thinking.
Okay.
It's where things are invented at the same time.
Oh, sure.
Without any nefarious activity. They just arrive at the same destination, land on the same shore, whether it's electricity or, some sort of big leap in
technology or house or philosophies.
Yeah, someone comes up with an invention and they could be on other sides of the world from one another, and it's just parallel thinking, whether it's vibrations or whatever. It could be a multitude of things that makes that happen. But the idea that you guys ended up doing something with a similar mindset at similar times, maybe is an indication you guys are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think, we love to innovate. Back to the partners that I was picking, or even the house. So putting this together with the zip and the rock wool. The rock wool is definitely influenced specifically to Nick. I mean, Nick does all of his. I chose zip to have 2 inches. Nick actually does like 8 or 10 inches of rock wool to the outside. I knew that in my market, I couldn't afford the labor to do that, or I didn't want to. So I put rock wool to the inside. And I love rock wool because of its sound deadening quality. So one thing I became very obsessed with later on, once I unlocked the wellness, and maybe we'll get there right now, is we'll go there right now and I'll come back to the rock wool. So I asked myself, this home is becoming very energy efficient. I'm putting insulation to the outside. I talked to Pella and I wanted to do triple pane windows. I've never done triple pane windows in my 21-year career, and I really wanted to. And they said, we'll support you. Let's do it. And so as I was going through the energy performances, I started thinking, I'm really good friends with Paul Crumrich from Greenway Solar. And I thought, well, he wanted me to do solar panels. He does Tesla roofs. So I went around, drove around and looked at Tesla roofs. I'm like, ugh, I don't like the way they look. They're too contemporary. They're too modern. They're not Mysa. They're not cozy. They don't give me off the same vibe that I want. So I wanted the technology, but I didn't want the look for me. And then I was thinking, well, do I do geothermal? But I was thinking about all the costs started ringing up really quick. And I thought, I just stopped myself, because my dad has always been someone who builds economically. He builds what the clients want. And he's done very successful career, probably more successful than mine in terms of financial freedom and financial. I've always been more of the pursuit of curiosity and interest of like the art form, for better or for worse. That's just what interests me. And so I thought, this is where my dad is like, none of my clients, I've done 1 geothermal in 21 years. I've never done a solar. And I thought, well, then why am I putting on a spec home? And then here was what unlocked the whole thing. I don't know, honestly, I can't remember how it came into my brain, but somehow the word wellness came into my brain. Like live well. Oh, I know. We did some mnemonic phrasing, or not mnemonic, but like play on words, like dwell well. And I think when I saw dwell well, or like Mysa Hus dwelling well, and so that maybe that came from Molly Windmiller. Somehow it was in this washing brain. It just came out, that wellness. That was the missing link for the whole house. When I stumbled on that, this house, because I knew it was going to be cedar exterior, because I've always liked biophilic design. Anything that resembles nature or is nature is real. We, as humans, it seems like we gravitate towards fire, to water. I used to always joke with Sven Gustafsson, who owns Stonewood. He has the best name in the business, Stonewood. Like, that's such a powerful name. And I joked on the podcast I had with him, I was like, well, you have Stonewood, so I can't be fire and water builders. Who wants fire and water builders? Like, that has very negative connotations to a structure. But we do love those things. And so when wellness hit on me, it unlocked, for me, it was like the magic key. The whole house coalesced together. Now Mysa Hus had its philosophy intact. Wellness is my filter for everything. So now, like the cedar shakes, those are natural. The product we're putting on them are natural based, no like VOCs or any chemicals, things like that. I then pivoted away from spray foam as much as possible, because spray foam off gases. Now there is some spray foam because it's really good at air sealing, and there's some flat roofs in it. So sometimes you have to. It's like, I think the one thing else I learned during this process is that wellness means different things to different people. Like the wood floor, we talked about the linseed oil in the very beginning. Like, that is much more of a wellness-based product. Honestly, the triple pane windows stayed, not because of their energy efficiency, but I became really fascinated with the pursuit of quiet. Back to the refuge thing. So a triple pane window, that extra pane of glass, really quiets things down a lot. Now I became like kind of obsessed with it. So all the interior walls have rock wool. Now rock wool has been often used for deadening sound. It's great at that. But I did it in all the exterior walls. I did all the interior walls. You were walking in the house with me just a minute ago. We have 90% of it sheetrocked, but the owner's suite, we're putting wood. So it sounds like a sound vacuum. It just sucks up sound.
Well, and there were fans and heaters and all the things on that were trying to get the humidity right in the flooring. And we would leave one room and go into the primary suite, and it was so quiet. And that's with noise down the hall, that's so strange. I mean, I live in a house built in 1951. If somebody's walking in the living room, you can hear them on the other side of the house. This is the opposite of that. And just because I was going up and down the stairs too, I was seeing 18 inches between the levels of the floor, and insulation in between there too. So I mean, just the entire thing sounded so quiet and felt peaceful as a result. I mean, it really was. It was a cool sensation to be to be in a space that's like that.
One thing that, and we obviously have to put sheetrock on, but when we had none of the sheetrock on, it was only rock wool, and I was downstairs. Have you ever gone scuba diving or snorkeling? When when you first go underwater and all the ambient outside noise, like you go underwater and you can hear like, it just deadens everything. That's what it felt like coming into the house. I almost feel like the air pressure around your ears change. It was kind of wild actually. And it almost felt like you'd have a down pillow over your ears. That's kind of what it felt like. It was just really muffling. And sheetrock adds, of course, echoing back on. So what we did is we have all the sound insulation, but we also, it's called Silent RX. It's actually a rubber fiber in the sheetrock. We didn't do it everywhere, but we did it between the main floor and the basement floor. So the whole idea is like, could I be in the kitchen or great room? And if someone's walking on a wood floor, because traditionally if you have wood everywhere, because the other thing is down to wellness is like, I didn't want a lot of carpet in the house because carpet is notorious for dust and bacteria and things like that. So I wanted as much hardwood as possible. So the whole main level is hardwood. The whole second level is hardwood. But impact rating is different than sound rating. I've learned a lot about sound transfer. So I knew that the rock wool in the rooms, the way we compartmentalized them upstairs, would stop sound waves, but would it stop the impact of a shoe through wood? So what we did to help with that is we have our Extreme Advantech for our subfloor. That's our subfloor, one of our partners as well. Then we have 18-inch floor trusses that we netted and blowed. We do that on all of our homes. But in addition to that, we have the rubber in the sheetrock, and we also did a 16th-inch layer of rubber on top of the subfloor so that the wood floor would sit on top of the 16th-inch rubber. Then you've got subfloor. Then you've got 18 inches of net and blown. Then you've got sheetrock with a J-channel clip, and it also has rubber in the sheetrock. So I've gone almost as far as you can go. You can go a couple steps further, but it became so cost prohibitive to go any farther that this is about as far as I could reasonably go to deaden sound. And I'm really excited when it's all said and done. Plus, when you add fabric and couches and rugs, I know that someone will walk in, and within 10 steps, they'll say, this home feels different. And I'm just going to smile. They won't know about the year-long process that I went through to sort of get there. But that's what they'll say, and I'll just smile. So that's the sound. So that's the sound part. That's been a huge, 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 huge part of all of it. I could go into all the selections. We're using a lot of antiqued white oak. It has that really just organic, it makes you want to touch it, kind of a natural dry feel to it. I didn't want anything shiny. The hardest thing to do in the house, oddly enough, by far, not even close, the hardest thing that we struggled with around wellness was the fireplace. So I knew...
I want to talk about that.
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted electric appliances. So we're using Fisher Paykel out of New Zealand. And we went with all electric because I had read an article a couple of years ago, and luckily all my kids are very healthy, but that the amount of people that have respiratory illnesses and asthma, there's a huge correlation between natural gas being burned in the house and that. And this was an article that was very pro-electric appliances. And so I don't have any gas appliances in the house. They're all electric, even the washer and dryer. And we have two sets of washer and dryers, one by the pool house and one up above. They're kind of the European style, so smaller, spin faster, those kinds of things, more economical, more efficient. But the fireplace, I wrestled with this for like 4 months. It was the hardest decision because having a gas unit, well, first of all, I should back up. At one point, I was going to have electric. The whole house was going to be electric. And then someone came up, I think it was someone just practically said, what happens if the power lines go down? Then what? I'm like, oh, that's a good question. He's like, having a redundant fuel source is really just smart. In this area in Cottagewood, there's a lot of trees in Shorewood and surrounding areas. And whether we do a generator or not is yet to be determined. But even if you do an electric battery, like a Tesla battery wall, they're only good for like a couple days. And so I said, you're right. So we have gas boiler in the basement, but that's all the hydronic heating. Everything else is electric. So the idea is that you could heat your house, and that slab would take many, many days to cool down, but electric could still have a furnace. So having that dual fuel source is actually just redundantly smart, but no appliances in the house that would like open atmospherically, gas or anything that people could inhale, like obviously a gas burner when you're cooking and things like that. Back to the fireplace. So I'm like, well, gas fireplace is easy. I could just point my remote at it, start it up, and Bob's your uncle.
Instantaneous.
And I went back. We picked designs. We didn't like them. I mean, all our images were wood burners. Everyone. It was like, Oho and I, it was very traditional, Carl would put a couple modern, cool Scandinavian ones like Stuve and whatever. And I kept going to appliance stores and picking ones that I liked, or picking a stove, and none of them really felt right. And we just went round and around and kicked the ball, and like finally Carl was like, you have to tell me, you have to decide. Like that's a decision Mark had to make. Oho couldn't make it, Carl couldn't make it. Like that was when, how does the philosophy dictate that? And I struggled with it. Because a wood burning fireplace, when it starts, it often backdrafts. So, like you've seen the front of a fireplace where it gets sit on it, that's carbon monoxide. Well, that's not healthy. So I felt like that was betrayal of the philosophy. Here I thought, man, we spent all this time developing this philosophy, but it's failing me. It's not doing what I want it to do. And then I thought, if it's gas, then it's great. But it's also like, well, it's just easy. It's just point and shoot, and it doesn't really fit the vibe. You don't hear the fire crackling. And Carl was the one that really helped draw my attention to it. He said, what is wellness to you, Mark Williams? And I love stories. I said, when I was a little kid, we always had wood burning fireplaces. At our house at 1535 Bavarian Shores Drive, we had a wood box behind the fireplace in our great room. And my dad would get dressed up in his blue ski suit with white diagonals, very 70s. And I would be inside.
Chevrons?
Yeah, totally chevrons. 100%. Man, you nailed it.
Love it.
And I'd be inside with my dad's leather gloves or whatever. He would have an orange sled, and he would load up the sled. He'd pull it to the side of the house. I'd open up the window. It was January, -5 degrees, cold, and my cheeks would get all rosy red like yours are right now. And I would bring him in. He would hand him, and I'd load up the wood box. And it was like this memory I have that's very strong of my dad and I. And when I thought of that, it was over. I said, that's
decision made.
That's the decision made. That's what we're doing. Because wellness isn't just what we breathe. Wellness is also like a place of being, like a place of how we feel, how we're balanced in our universe, our world, our house, our family. Like that's wellness too. And so from that point on, I was like, it's a wood burner. And now, because our house is so tight, because of all this insulation, backdrafting is a real concern of mine. Now we have this really cool glass guillotine door, so you can shut it. So as it cools down, that it'll probably billow and stay in there. But it cost $8,000. It was pretty expensive. We actually have a fan in the top of the chimney, so you can click the fan and it will power vent it out. So that was my way around. It cost me more money, but I got the wood burner, and I can eliminate backdrafting to the best of it. Because the other idea was like, we'll just crack open a window to let it not vent. I'm like,
feels very analog. Yeah.
How am I going to build a multi-million-dollar home and then
We
tell
go,
the
"Yeah, we'll
homeowner
just crack the window
That
and
just
you have
seemed like that's not going to fly. Or if they sold it and forgot, what am I going to have some poor little kid get carbon monoxide because of that?
Yeah.
So we solved that issue. Anyway, that was honestly the hardest decision. But once we made it, it just felt right. Yeah. So that's the design. So wow, this is going to be a lot longer than this is great. So just let it roll.
I found myself chopping logs, wood, last couple of weeks, just right before the weather turned. And we had a big stack of cut down birch and a couple other hardwoods up the lake. And I thought it made sense to go out there. And it is true that burning or doing a fire like that will warm you 3 different times. Have you heard this?
I have heard that.
Yeah.
Say it again, though.
Well, it's chopping the wood, the stacking the wood, and then burning the wood.
Yeah.
And it is hard work. But the truth is that having a reason to go outside when the weather is cold, and that experience that you described, I mean, I don't remember feeling as good this year as I did right after chopping and stacking a big thing of wood. And whether you want to go through all of that or you just want to hear the crackle of the fire, I love a real fireplace. So I'm on board with that.
Well,
idea.
I remember when May was little, we had an old home, like a 1926 home down in Minneapolis, and my wife wasn't as enthralled by it, and so May was like 6 months old. She'd be in her little snuggly blanket sleeping in my arms, and I would light up a fire, and I would sit by the fire and let it crackle while May just slept on me as a little kid. So that was, I wasn't thinking about it at the time. I just thought of it just now.
Yeah.
You get it warm the 4th time when a little kid is snuggling you.
Yeah.
Kids are warm too.
Right.
So anyway, that's the fireplace. So we have the plans, we have the design. So Oho now is making the selections, and I kind of stayed out of it. I let them make their selections because I wanted to have them inform it. But we knew the structure. I was very involved with the structure from rock wool to Huber. Da Vinci is synthetic slate. So I wanted that to feel very European and very, I just love the way that looks. We worked with Pebble Design on landscaping. So I'd never done a living green roof before. So the back of the home actually has a living green roof. It's all the flat roof. You can't see it now because it'll happen next spring. It'll all be green grass on the flat portion.
Wow.
And so I can't wait to see, because again, how you feel. Like you want to look at a black tarred mat out of your bedrooms. How about a green field? That's cool.
Pretty amazing.
So that's going to feel really good. And then plaster. I should go back to the inside. The plaster, I love plaster. I've always wanted more plaster. And so out on the East Coast, oddly enough, I was just out, as you mentioned, seeing Nick. All they do on the East Coast is plaster everywhere. So you don't have to tell them anything. It's like, what's sheetrock? Everything's plaster. So I love the way it feels. I love the way the light hits it and the way it feels when you're in it. So I'm really excited. That was kind of a bit of a budget buster because I have a lot of it. But I felt it was really important to what I would want and how you feel. So at this point, it is, let's say, December or January. The team is working on permit sets. We haven't final priced it out or any of this stuff. It's now brand time. So now I've used what I've learned from the Curious Builder in having brand partnerships and now understanding how that works with bigger companies of like, I have a story. I have Mysa Hus. I have a very well-defined philosophy around wellness. I have a plan that I needed really good rendering. So, Nick Schiffer, shout out to him, Vincent of On Possible is the architect he works with. They have insanely amazing renderings. They're not even renderings. They look like photos. Like you would think the house is done. And so I use that as I think those ended up costing him, I think he said like $4,000 or $5,000 per image.
Yeah, no small task.
They're very expensive. Yeah. So I worked with a local company, Jake Williams, no relation, from Noman. I found him and interviewed him, and we're about $2,000 to $3,000 per image. I knew that I couldn't market or sell this. I didn't want to wait till the end. Like I wanted to be telling the story all the way through. I have this great logo. I've got this great brand. I've got this great story, but people need an image. People need something they can sink their teeth into. So, and I didn't want to do, if I'm working for you as a client, we would never spend that much money in a rendering because renderings are really there to inform like, hey, do you like this? They're moving too much. You need, for a rendering of that quality, you have to make all the decisions on the front end, all the way. Like every single stain color, pink color, piece of furniture, everything has to be selected. That's the only way you can get these renderings to look that good. Even, AI, it's good, but it's not that good. So we spent a couple months getting
And it's worth it because you have to be selling the dream at this point. It's not executed.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm selling the dream. So that's all done now. So we did that over the winter. So the International Builder Show is coming up. It was last February. It's coming up again this February. But at the time, so I made these little cards with the QR code. And I said, now I put on my marketing hat. I've got to go sell this dream to all my brand partners. So I created a website, or I had already had a Mysa Hus website. We'd copyrighted it. I had big plans for this, for this dream. I mean, maybe I should put a pin in it. My big dreams for this whole thing was not just to sell a house. I want to sell this house, obviously. I want to build 2 to 3 homes off of this house because it's going to be the artisan home tour in June of 26. But I would like to build between 10 and 20 Mysa Huses in the balance of my career, meaning, and it doesn't have to be the same architect, the same designer. It doesn't even have to be the same builder. Like if it's in Minnesota, I'll build it. But my big plan is to figure out how to license this and sell it to other builders in other states so that they can do a Mysa Hus. And so we kind of have ownership of Mysa Hus. And so I've actually got 2 builders that want to do it. So I have one in Atlanta and one in Missoula, Montana. And we're both right now in the early stages of what that looks like. And so I kind of need to finish this house to sort of prescribe what this is. But that's the big dream. Don't know how to get there, but I'll figure it out. And so back to IBS. So I'm going to these brands. I know that if you go to pitch a brand,
This is last February?
This is last February at the International Builder Show in Las Vegas. There's millions of people that come to this convention every year, hundreds or thousands of exhibitors, all my normal brands that I already mentioned to. A lot of them already knew ahead of time, had been kind of conditioning that I'm coming to talk to you about this. But Melissa Oland came because KBiz, which is the kitchen and bath section of, so there's the building side, which is like concrete and windows and fasteners and hammers and every other thing that goes into a house. And then KBiz is kind of like the glitzy, fancy stuff. It's the appliances, it's the countertops, it's the plumbing, it's all the pretty stuff. And so anyway, we went there together as a coordinated effort. I spent one day just courting all of my sponsors for the shell. So like Huber, Zip, Da Vinci, Emser Tile, everyone that I had relationships with already, I sort of solidified them. And I came up with like 3 tiers. and say, hey, here's the 3 tiers. Here's the deliverables that I'll do for you. So at tier 1, this is what I'll do. Tier 2, this is what I'll do. Tier 3, you get all the other tiers plus this. And this is where I leverage the Curious Builder podcast platform and Mark Williams Custom Homes. So years ago, I had someone that worked with me that was not real impressed with my love of the Curious Builder. He never saw the value of what it could become. But I never could have done this without the Curious Builder platform, because these brands not only want builders, and it doesn't matter if you have a platform as big as mine or not as big as mine, doesn't really matter. It's just that having a coordinated plan where they all together is just much more attractive to a brand partner, because they can sell to clients, they can sell to other builders. So you have multiple.
It's a better package.
It's just
right?
a better package.
And it's hand in glove. One helps the other.
100%.
Yeah.
So I've made it really simple, just three tiers. I was blown away. I still am blown away at how the brands responded to what I came with. I'm too close to it to understand why. I guess we'd have to ask them. But a big part of it was the wellness side of it. They already knew, these big companies, they're not idiots. They know where the trends are going. They knew that this was the tip of the spear for kind of the wellness. And we're having a huge day with thermoculture. I mean, if you haven't seen a cold tub or a sauna ad on your Instagram in the last 3 years, you must not be on social media, because they are pushing that hard. And anyway, that's just a part of it. There's so much more to wellness than that. But anyway, so we went to Vegas, landed a bunch of brand relationships, kept pursuing them, kept talking to them, finished all the design. Melissa helped me on the interior side of it. Like House of Roll is one of our big partners on the inside. So plumbing and sinks and things like that are amazing. I could go through all the brand partners, but we will save that maybe for another episode. We did we ended up doing a live podcast in Mysa Hus at the framing stage. So one of the things that I've tried to do is get creative on marketing. And so I did a live panel. We did a blog, and it was an episode, I don't know. Yeah, it aired about 2 weeks ago. So I think episode maybe 138, somewhere around there. And we had 2 people from Pella, someone from Zip Huber, and someone from Rockwool. And then I had a closed audience of just my sponsors.
I did see a little snippet of that. Yeah.
Yep. And so we'll do one at the end when the house is 100% done. We'll do a closed order, or it's just it'll be like the finished products. And then we'll do an open to the public one. That'll be quite large. Anyway, so we started construction in I think May or June of 25, and really just been pursuing that. And I'm sure there's a lot more to it, and there will be a lot more that we talk about. But we're about halfway through the build now. We're currently, the exterior is all done, the pool is in,
filled.
All the siding's done, the pool is filled. We didn't want to deal with that in the spring. We have road restrictions, and we only have about 1 month to get it ready for the tour in June. So we got really lucky. It snowed today, and we got just enough done it took a lot of pressure off us for next year. So right now we've got basically all of December will be tile. January and February will be cabinetry and trim. March and April will be painting and plaster. And then April will be, I guess, a little crossover there. April will be all the finishes. And then we'll do a photo shoot at the beginning of May. And then you have a completed Mysa Hus. It's done.
It's astonishing.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I'm sure there's something, forgive me if I've missed anything, but that's I spent a lot of time in the front. I really wanted this episode to be about how I came up with the idea, how it nurtured, how it evolved, that wellness thing. 2 things that came out, the wellness thing. What's cool about brands being attracted to the wellness is they bring forward products I didn't even know existed. So Pentair, I think, is the second largest filter company in the world. They do a lot of pools, and they're doing our Mysa Hus pool. But they realize that water is the most precious resource on the planet, and they're developing a self-contained system that will purify your water, RO it, reverse osmosis, but will also add minerals back into the water on a whole house system. And our house will be one of the first in the country that beta tests this. And so in fact, they've done it on a few other, I put him in touch with Brad Levitt down in Arizona. He's building his own personal house right now. And Brad Robinson down in Atlanta, Georgia, he's building a house too. But ours would be the first well. The other ones are on city water. So they've got Jahan is my contact there. I'm like, how's the well purifying coming? Because it's coming in hot. You better get this thing ready. So anyway, she'll be fine. But so brands come to me and say, hey, we're excited about this. We have something that's in the wellness segment. And if it aligns, again, the philosophy would be like, yeah, let's grab that.
What I think is so impressive about what you're describing, and having seen the house and heard about the house, is that there's a tremendous amount of technology that is involved in making this house great. but it's not like a technical project. It's not the kind of thing that as a user that you need to be an engineer in order to live here. I think it's fantastic that you're getting kind of the leading edge stuff in the house. The efficiency stuff is at premium level, but at the same time, it's not the kind of thing that's going to be a complicated place to live. If anything, it's more simplified. It's the kind of place where you want to live your ideal day.
No, I appreciate you saying that. When you just said simple, like the house is not simple, but if the outcome could be simplicity, I would feel like that would be a goal worth accomplishing. In a place called, it's not too big, it's all relative, right? I mean, it depends on what big everyone's, I think it'll be 52 or 5,300 square feet total if you include the wellness studio. I live in 3,000 square feet. So for me, that's a pretty big house. For someone that's, building a 7, 8, 10,000 square foot, it's small. It's just relative, but it feels very cozy. And people will come in not knowing what the size is. They'll likely, in past, people have always said the home is bigger than it is. I don't know if this will be the case on this one because we've deliberately made all the rooms feel very snug. They're really right-sized. One thing I noticed in going on a tour recently is these homes were beautiful, well-executed for me personally. This is no shade on the homes that I walked through. They were out of balance. They were too big. I don't like being a little pebble in a big box. I was out of state recently and I was touring some monster homes, 10, 15, 24,000 square foot homes. I'm just like, I have zero interest in that.
Yeah. How many places do you need to sit?
It's weird. Some of them are like 3 bedrooms house. How could you have a 24,000 square foot house with 3 bedrooms? I don't even know how that's possible.
It's like a hotel lobby. Yeah.
I feel a refuge. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel relaxed. And this home is what makes me feel that way. Maybe for somebody else, it doesn't work. And that's okay. I think that's what's beautiful about it is this is my litmus test, and hopefully it appeals to somebody else.
I think it will. Yeah. And even to see how the outside can kind of be in with the big doors in the wellness space that opens to the pool, and even being kind of in that L-shaped configuration with the pool in the center. I think vantage makes a big difference, which way you're looking, having a lot of light, all that stuff makes things feel bigger, right? Without actually having to have additional square footage.
Agreed. The other thing that was, I am, as you know, I'm not a very subtle person.
No.
The front of the house is quite subtle. It's some people call it a salt box, Cape Cod, where it's very simple. I knew I wanted the form to be simple, understated. It's hard. I can appreciate it now that it's been built, but at the time when we were designing it on paper, I was like, oh boy, is it too simple? Is it too? It's a credit to Carl who drew it. Like, I don't know. You get that wrong and it falls bad. You get it right and you're like, they know what they're doing. Like, it's hard to be, I think of like an Apple iPhone. Like, its beauty is its simplicity, in terms of like its shape and just like a clear, clean kind of thing. Or even like, these Mysa Hus tiles. I've learned some things along the way that I'm just become obsessed with. So right now I'm holding up on camera, shout out to Melissa Oland. I didn't know what a Delft tile was. Turns out it's from like the Netherlands, a little town. And so these are hand-baked clay tiles with indigo handwriting on it. And there's a local artist up in Duluth who's making all these. So I love gift giving and I love marketing. So here's the combo. So I'm handing these out to clients, architects, designers I work with, little QR code on the back for Mysa Hus website, but they're coasters. They're little pieces of Mysa Hus. If they're not super inexpensive, they're quite expensive. I had thought, because we're going to get thousands of people that come through this house, I had wanted to make thousands of these and hand out one to every single person that came through. I still want to, but the cost would be a lot. So I don't know. I thought maybe that's one place I could save some money. Anyway, so, back to the house where we're at right now, there was something I wanted to mention.
Well, you were saying that if it was simple from the front, that it, if not executed correctly, that it could fall flat.
It could feel plain or something.
I have heard that the thinking about when the Michelangelo's David was being carved, that it was just more removal of what wasn't David rather than an addition, right? So it's, in my estimation, a similar thinking, right? You go, what doesn't need to be there more than what needs to be added just that's extraneous, right?
No, I think that's extremely well said. And I'm excited the landscaping will help shape and form that as well. Oh, I know two little things just on marketing. Again, extracting things from my own personal story into the home. The fireplace, that whole story, the wellness center was a big part of it, just because it has, some obviously Scandinavian inspired roots and some European influence. The sign I showed you, it was covered in snow. So I came up with this idea just out of the blue one night, and I wrote it down and did it the next morning. So Minoma and Reson Timber, shout out to them. They gave me a big reclaimed timber. But when you're hiking in Europe or honestly anywhere in the mountains, they have those little wood arrow signs that's like 5.3 kilometers to the next.
For wayfinding, right?
Yeah, wayfinding, and like these cool little directional arrows. I see them in Europe all the time. So I wanted to make one for Mysa Hus. And so I made one that said like Excelsior, where my office is, 4.3 kilometers. General store, 200 meters. Stockholm, Sweden, 6,300 kilometers. Glacier Park, where we had a cabin for 25 years, had meant a lot to me. I forget the distance, 1,200 miles. I don't know what that is in kilometers. And then the last one, the coup de grace, was 20 meters, Mysa Hus. So like kind of like your home. That was kind of the play on that. And so I've really enjoyed thinking about marketing. This water bottle here is from Lark. It's got it's the first self-cleaning UV filter. So it this light here, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, it filters. So just anything I can find around wellness, I'm putting in the house because it fits the story so well. So anyway, I'm really, really enjoying, and we still have a long ways to go. Right now we are looking at furniture, and, I'm thinking about final photography and then selling it. I think, kudos to our buddy, Ben Gange. I brought, him and Aaron through a couple months ago, because I'm not a private person, as you know, and I like to show, I want to sell this. The goal was to originally have all these tiles, all these water bottles, interact with every one of my past clients, bring every one of them through the house, interact with all the neighbors, bring them through the house, with the idea that they would then go forth and dispel the gospel of Mysa and sell it.
Sales squad.
And after Ben looked at the house, keep in mind this is at the skeleton phase, and Ben knows homes. This is no shade on Ben. Ben knows he's an amazing, purveyor of architecture and design and whatnot. I told him what the price was. I had him guess. After I spent an hour telling him what it was going to become, showing him pictures, showing him the renderings. Then I had him walk the space, and he was off by over $1 million. And I told him what the cost was, and kudos to him. He looked at me and he said, "Don't show this house to a single person, not one, until it's 100% done, until the flowers are in the vase, the wind is blowing, the sun is coming through, that cup of coffee, is in the sunroom, because there's only like 3 people that know this house, that see it. It'd be Carl, Melissa, and I, because we've been in it for a year and a half by the time it's done." And I've used this analogy of like, if you sat in a Ferrari, well, it was just the metal phase. It's just a metal chassis. How is this different than a BMW or a Ford Focus or anything? It's just metal. Sure, you could maybe recognize parts, but that's about it. But if you sit in at the end and the black leather stitching, and you've got a little line of red stitching on the leather seats, and by the way, you put your hand on the leather and it's been like lamb hide, tan, or I don't even know, because I'm not a car guy, but something amazing. Like when you feel it, you feel the difference. You don't need to know about all the other thing, but like if they took this much care on the stitching that has this red and the black stitching, did they do that? I can't see. And so, so we're gonna wait till the end to bring prospective clients through. A lot of people ask about it. A lot of people have been asking for tours. I've given some architects and some professionals tours just so that they can see it, but they're not really my client. And Ben kind of was the one that says, "You've got one shot," and the neighbor, everyone knows about it. The neighbor down the street is one of my other designers, and her family referred to it as Mysa. "How's Mysa doing today?" They referred to it like a person.
It's got its own life force.
Yeah. So that's the story of Mysa Hus. That's how I kind of came to the whole brand, the whole story, and it's still evolving. I don't claim to be Walt Disney, but I am inspired by him. And I listened to, on the Founders Podcast, he had a great episode about Walt Disney. They asked him, how much would Disneyland cost? Do you know what his answer was? "I'll let you know when I'm done. I'll let you know when I'm done innovating." And I've said that a few times, A, because I want to copy it, because I think it's a really cool line to say, but 2, it's true. Every week that goes by, the home takes a subtle change. We added something the other day that wasn't on it. We moved the cold tub to a different location. We added an outdoor shower. I mean, it continues to evolve, which is also a good reason not to say the price, because the price keeps changing.
Right.
And so does what we're going to do with it.
Well, as the project improves, right, you add things that are different. You see something that can be adjusted or improved, you go, it's going to have to take a little bit of a turn, right?
There was 2 companies that I've got to bring up around wellness that were super cool. One is Visium. So Jonathan Kramer, Cremer, not John Kramer, as people in Minnesota would know him. Oddly enough, I looked him up one time thinking I was speaking with John Kramer locally here, and it was Jonathan Kramer. And everyone was very confused because John Kramer's like, well, I'm not speaking at anything. And Jonathan Kramer's like, yeah, I am. And it was just this really funny thing. So I like to give them both a hard time now. Anyway, Jonathan Kramer has a company called Eversphere, and they do a lot of commercial testing around the world, actually. And they have a lot of cool wellness, health things. We even talk about the HVAC system in terms of like UV light, purifying your air, filters. Well, that's all. We can talk about that some other time. Anyway, he comes with this Visium light. It's a UV light that you put above the bathroom. And UV kills bacteria up to 99%, the light. And so in a bathroom, obviously people poop. News alert. So it kills fecal bacteria in the air at the point of source. And so they're pretty expensive. They're $2,000 per light. So there's a lot. We put them in each bathroom. But it is going to, again, it's going back to that clean, that health aspect. It's a new product. People will never have seen that light because it's brand new. The other thing we're doing is I've always really wanted to do a bidet. So Toto makes the best bidets there are. I was in Chicago. We worked out some brand deals with them. So we're going to have, I think, 3 bidets in the house. And we're putting one in the powder room because I want everyone to have a chance to use it. Well, and very on purpose. And because it was super funny because the Toto guys, of course, this is their life, right? He's like, it's the difference between like, if you... Do you want to take a shower with like a wet toilet and just wipe your sweaty arms, or do you go take a shower? Like a shower feels way better. And like, why when we poop do we use paper? Guess what? How about washing it with water? Wouldn't that be a lot more hygienic? And so he's like, I have no idea why in the U.S. bidets are it's a cultural thing. In Europe it's completely the opposite. So I'm really excited. I will be one of the first people ever. Usually on your toilets you say, do not use. I'm going to say on my toilet, please use. And so I actually have this really funny idea. The social media team is going to love this. I'm going to do a deal where I'm going to have like the project manager, Carl, myself, you can be on it if you want. And everyone's going to go just take a picture of their face, a video of their face while they use the restroom, and then do it, and then flush the bidet. And
interview.
And it's going to be like just your face going like, oh. So it'd be like, one of the most successful ad campaigns of all time was in the cities was Faces of Death. Remember the old meth commercials or the meth boards?
Yeah.
So they would show like a normal person, and then as they use meth, their teeth would fall out and their face would fall off and all that. And mine is going to be, I'll come up with some plan where it's like Faces of Bidet or something like that, like Astonishment or whatever. That's the idea. Don't know how that's going to work, but
I love it.
It'll be funny.
No shortage of ideas.
No shortage of ideas. I actually have my next idea.
Yeah?
But I'm not going to tease it here.
Okay.
But this has made me think, like, I don't think I'll ever build a house without a brand around it.
Yeah.
And I've already got my next, I think I was talking to you today, I've got the next site for Mysa 2.0. I'm also developing potentially a cabin property where that would embody the Mysa philosophies as well. So I haven't been this excited about building a house since probably my first house. It is completely, after being sort of burned out a couple years ago, I said the Curious Builder sort of saved me and gave me the life to want to build again, talking with other builders, designers, entrepreneurs around the country. But Mysa Hus taught me to love building again. And so for that, I'm thankful.
Well, thank you for sharing your enthusiasm and all these creative solutions, and what a cool project.
Well, thanks for sitting and being a very good listener.
I love it. I'm curious too.
Well, you are. Thanks for tuning in, everyone here. If you want to find out more, you can head to mysahus.com. Instagram is also Mysa Hus. Mark Williams Custom Homes. Sign up for a newsletter. You'll get all kinds of information. If you want to see the house, it will be on the Artisan Home Tour in June of 2026, and also available for someone that wants to live there. So if you're interested in the home and you want it to be your home, please reach out to Mark at markdwilliamscustomhomes.com or any of our many social channels, and I'll be sure to put you on our waiting list and give you a tour in May. Thanks for tuning into the Curious Builder podcast. And thanks for Drew Beson with Drew Beson Art for being such an amazing co-host.
Thanks, Mark.
We're excited to announce that we're bringing back Sauna Camp 2.0 on March 20th from 2 to 8 p.m. We had this last year. We had 42 owners. This year, we're maxing out the capacity of the camp, which is going to be 60 people. We're going to have a wellness panel with some Everest summiters, as well as some Iron men and women to compete, and all about wellness and how they prioritize their health and wellness, not only in training, but in their lifestyles and in their business. And then we're going to have a 2-hour window of sauna and cold plunging in the lake, and then an amazing wood-fired grill, Mediterranean-style food at the end of that. So if you're interested, please head to curiousbuilder.com. Under retreats, you'll find everything there is about sauna camp on March 20th in Minnesota. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.